So we haven't made sushi in a while, so today we're gonna make a Philadelphia roll. Now, Philadelphia roll, it's kind of like an Americanized sushi somewhat. It's not really super traditional, but it sure is delicious. It's very, very easy to do. We're gonna use smoked salmon. If you're new to sushi, it's probably the recipe you wanna start with because it's very simple to make. I know you guys can do it. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get to cooking. All right, now to start this off, we're gonna go over some of our ingredients. It's really not a lot going on. It's a very simple recipe. The one thing you wanna make sure you have, in my opinion, is a good rice cooker. It doesn't have to be a good rice cooker, but you know, these are about 60 bucks, maybe 100 bucks now, I don't know. I've had this for probably about 6 to 10 years, something like that. You don't gotta worry about overcooking it or undercooking it. You literally just put the rice in here, wash it, and then you turn it on and it gives you perfect sushi rice. So definitely invest in a rice cooker. You'll use it all the time. So in addition to that, some of the things you're gonna need is you need some nori, which is just roasted seaweed, so you can roll your sushi rolls. I like using smoked salmon. Some people use raw salmon. I really don't like to eat the raw salmon, and I like the smoky flavor of the salmon, so we're gonna use smoked salmon. You definitely need the cream cheese, that's why it's called a Philadelphia roll. And then I'm gonna use cucumber, a couple things. Traditionally, people tend to use an avocado. Now, the reason why I like to use a cucumber is because if you have an avocado and cream cheese, it's two creamy elements, so you have no crunch. Me, I need a little bit of crunch, so I'm gonna add the cucumber instead of the avocado. It's always how I've done it, and I prefer it that way. You can use an avocado, just don't use the cucumber. You definitely need sushi rice. This is a short grain rice. I'm gonna show you this in a minute. You can't use a jasmine, you can't use a regular white rice. You need the short grain rice because it's a little bit more glutinous, it's sticky, so it actually sticks to your nori so you can roll your sushi. Now, when you go to cook your rice, you need to season the rice with sugar and vinegar. So you have that little bit of a sweet and sour element going on inside of your sushi rice. I'm gonna show you how to make it in a minute. And then for serving, we have wasabi, we have pickled ginger, and then soy sauce. Now this is togarashi, this is optional. I'm gonna put this on the rice to give it a little more of a kick. So if you like a little bit of heat, I definitely recommend trying this. You can get it at the Asian market, but let's go ahead and talk about the rice and show you guys how to cook it. So I just wanna briefly show you guys the difference between these rices. This here is jasmine rice. You see it's a little bit longer, a little bit opaque in color. This is sushi rice. It's smaller, it's gonna be a little bit more sticky. So the difference you can pretty much see. You wanna make sure you use sushi rice. I cannot stress that enough. If you use this rice and not this will not stick to your nori, so you're not gonna be able to roll your sushi. Okay, so I cooked this sushi rice earlier because it needs some time to cool down. So we're gonna add this to the bowl. When you go to cook this sushi rice, you're gonna run it under water until the water runs clear. And then you're just gonna put it in your rice cooker, fill it up to the water line, and then hit cook. It's really that simple. This is 2 cups of sushi rice. Now, traditionally, you're gonna use something called a hangiri. I believe I'm saying that right. It's a bamboo container that you'll use to basically keep the rice moist while you cut it with your seasoning. As you can see, I don't have one, and I'm trying to make this easy for you guys. We're not trying to make this super complicated. You know, there's an art to making sushi, there's an art to cutting sushi rice. It's just not practical in a home application. So I'm gonna teach you guys how to do this super easy. So I'm gonna let this hang out for a minute. I'm gonna show you guys how to make the seasoning. Now, to make the seasoning for the sushi rice, you need a small pot on medium heat. We're gonna add 1/3 cup of rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. Now all we're gonna do here is let this go until the sugar is dissolved into the vinegar. And this is gonna give that rice a nice flavor. It's gonna be a sweet and sour flavor with a hint of salt. You gotta season the rice. If you don't do this, your sushi is not gonna taste right. So all we're trying to do here is just dissolve that sugar, and then I'm gonna show you how to cut the rice, which we're really not gonna be cutting it. We're basically just gonna be seasoning the rice, but I'll show you how to do that before you roll your sushi. All right, so now we're just gonna take our vinegar mixture here, vinegar and sugar, and we're just gonna pour it over the rice. I like to pour it on the paddle so it just spreads out a little bit more even. And then we're just gonna go ahead and stir this in, just toss this around, just make sure it's evenly coated with all the rice. Somebody who's a master at sushi is probably laughing at this, but we're trying to do it for home application. Not everybody's gonna be a pro here. I want you guys to enjoy sushi at home, not have to spend $20 a roll. Basically what they would do if you were using a traditional method, they would bank this all to one side and you would start to cut the rice so that there's no clumps. But you could really just do this yourself. You just cut it so that there's no clumps in the rice so that it actually sticks onto the nori better. When you taste this, it's gonna be slightly sour, it's gonna be slightly sweet. So that's all we have to do here for the rice. We're gonna set this aside. I'm gonna teach you guys how to go ahead and cut some of the cucumber, and then we're gonna show you how to roll the sushi, and then we're gonna go ahead and dive into it. All right, now to cut this cucumber, we really wanted about 4 inches or so because we get about 2 pieces per sushi roll. So you're gonna cut it here, and it's very important that you remove the seeds. You don't want the seeds in your sushi because it's too much water. So you're gonna cut them down like that, and then we're just gonna go ahead and remove the seeds like this. Just take your knife right across very carefully, don't cut yourself, and you're gonna remove the seeds. Now, you wanna cut this in about 1/4 inch strips that are gonna fit into your sushi. So So that way, this is actually gonna go right into your sushi roll, give you a little bit of crunch and texture. You wanna make sure you remove the seeds. Now as for the cream cheese, you really want to make sure this is super cold because you got to cut it into strips. I mean, you could spread it technically. I don't really like to do that. I like to cut it. So now we're not going to need this whole thing. So I'm just going to cut about that much. Okay, so now we have a little brick here of cream cheese. Now what I like to do, take this cream cheese and we're just going to cut it into 3 sections just like this. And then I'm just going to cut it one more time into a little thin strip. Like I said, it helps if you do this when it's super cold, but you can always pop it back in the fridge if you're not gonna make your rolls right away, you're just prepping things. All right, so one thing about this nori, as you can see, it's really big. We don't need it this big. Now, a lot of people will just cut this in half, but if you look really closely, there's perforated lines on this nori. So what I like to do is go about 1/4 of the way in, and you're gonna just go ahead and fold this over. Fold it over twice, right on that line, and then we're gonna carefully kind of trim it here. Sometimes I use a knife, it just depends. 8 inches by 4 inches is what you're gonna use to roll your sushi. So you wanna make sure you tear all your noris about this size, because if you don't, it's just gonna be too much nori. So let's talk about this sushi mat. You can pretty much buy these anywhere now. You can get them on Amazon, but you're definitely gonna want one for rolling your sushi. It makes it a little bit easier. But here's the thing though, you wanna wrap this in plastic wrap, because if you don't, it's gonna get all gunked up and you're really not gonna be able to use it. It'll get stuff in between the bamboo and it's gonna get disgusting. So what you wanna do here is you take some plastic wrap, we're just gonna spread it out here onto the cutting board, and then we're gonna place your sushi mat right in the middle. We're gonna do this twice. Cover that end, cover it like this. Now what this is gonna do is basically help so that our sushi doesn't stick to the bamboo, but also help for easy cleanup so we can continue to use this for years. So you always wanna go ahead and make sure you cover your sushi mat in some kind of plastic wrap. All right, so now that that's done, we're gonna go ahead and move on to rolling our sushi. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your mat, you're gonna place it directly in the center of your cutting board. Now you're gonna take one of your pieces of nori, shiny side down. See, there's a matte end and a shiny end, shiny side down. Now you wanna get your hands super wet and take about a baseball size of your rice, place it right in the center of the nori, and you're gonna very gently spread it out all over, very gently. Don't push down, just go ahead, gently spread it out. You don't want too much rice either. You just want a nice layer of rice. Now, like I said before, I like it spicy, so we're gonna add the togarashi right on top. If you haven't tried this stuff, it's amazing. If you don't like it spicy, you can just use black sesame seeds, it's fine. Now we're gonna go ahead and flip this over. Now we're gonna take a nice thin strip of our cream cheese, and we're gonna gently press down from end to end. You wanna make sure you have a nice thin strip of the cream cheese. Now we're gonna add our cucumber, and that's why you wanna make sure you cut it exactly about 4 inches so it fits your piece of sushi. Now, since we're using the smoked salmon, I'm just gonna add a nice little layer of salmon. I just tear it with my hands, make sure it fits every section of this. Okay, so now you see, we have the cream cheese, we got the cucumber, and we got the smoked salmon. Now to roll this is actually quite simple. I know it seems intimidating, but that's why you got the mat. You let the mat guide you. So what you're gonna do, fold this over once, okay, onto itself. I'm gonna try to show you guys how to do this. So you're gonna fold it over, right? Now we got the mat like this. We're gonna just gently squeeze, just a little bit. And as you can see here, where we're at here now, right? You can see that it's tucked in. You got the layer of the nori still showing. So what you're gonna do now is another 1/4 turn. So we're gonna pull it back, 1/4 turn, and press again. And that's gonna seal the sushi, see? So now we have an actual roll that's sealed. Now you're gonna take your mat again, you're gonna throw it over top of the sushi, and you're just gonna form it a little bit. You just wanna form it just to make it pretty. It's very simple to roll sushi, see that? So now you got a perfect roll, it's sealed, and it's gonna be easy to cut. All right, so now to cut this sushi, hopefully my knife is sharp enough. I probably need to sharpen it, but I'll be able to cut it. If your knife's not super sharp, you can always just add a little water. You're gonna cut it right in half. Now what I like to do here, some people will put the ends together so they can cut it even. Yeah, I'm just gonna eyeball it. So what you're gonna do, we're gonna cut this into about 4 pieces, 6 to 8 pieces, depending on what we get. Depends how big you want it. You know, I'm really indifferent about it. So we're just gonna cut this into 6 to 8 pieces. Now let's just say your knife's not that sharp. As you can see, mine wasn't that sharp. You're gonna take your pieces of sushi and you can just literally just press them with your hand, just to form them, just like that, just a little bit, just so they stay together when you pick them up with your chopsticks. So now I'm gonna finish rolling up some sushi, cut a few, and then we're gonna serve it up. Now the way I like to serve this, we're gonna take a few rolls, just a little bit of pickled ginger there, a little dollop with some wasabi, and then you're pretty much always gonna serve this with a little bit of soy sauce on the side so you can dunk your sushi. And there it is, that's our Philadelphia roll. Let's go ahead and give it a try. So what I like to do, take a little dollop of wasabi right on there, not too much, a little dunk in the soy sauce. That's incredible. You get a nice smoky flavor from that salmon. You know, it doesn't taste fishy at all. The creaminess from the cream cheese is excellent. That's why I use the cucumber, because you get a little bit of crunch. If you don't use the cucumber, it's gonna be all like kind of mushy. I can't explain it. There's no crunch, there's no texture. So the cucumber adds some nice texture. I do recommend using it over the avocado. The togarashi adds some nice heat. If you don't want it spicy, like I said before, don't use the togarashi. Just use like some black sesame seeds for garnish. It'll be fine. Anyways, if you're getting into making your own sushi, this is a very easy roll to start with. Leave me a comment if you end up trying this. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.